Hi everyone! Hey Daniel.
Good morning. How are you doing, Michael?
And we are live from San Francisco. This is the day 3 of the UX Design live events.
Live events, day 3.
Yeah, Adobe live show on behance.net/live. Thanks for joining. I see already Bea in the chat. I see Mariam, Matthias. Matthias has been with us the 3 days, huh?
Yeah.
You love UX design, Matthias. That's good.
Thank you for tuning in.
And if you missed the first and second episode, the replays are available on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. I really invite you to watch the design thinking and how Daniel works. He's the first, actually, the first one on Adobe Live.
All right.
Working on Windows application using Adobe XD on Windows. So this is exciting. We learned a lot. I learned a lot. Like I had no idea about all the work that Microsoft has done in terms of UX design, patterns, all the documentation that is available.
Accessibility, all the things that have been thought out in the system across the board, yes.
Hello, Ahmed. Hello, I see Nicole in the chat. Ruth.
Good evening.
Hey, team. Thanks for joining. So, yeah, good morning, good evening, good night. Depends on where you are.
Exactly.
It's the morning for us.
Yes.
So maybe, Daniel, you want to recap a little bit what you were working on over these 2 days. And this is the last day.
Yeah.
We're so sad.
So sad, you know.
Oh, yeah, but he will be back. He will be back.
Yes. Always happy to do so. So to recap, looking at a UWP Windows experience that is really focused on people that are on cruise ships that really want to take their preferences, map them to activities that are available on the cruise itself, and match up with other people that are doing the like-minded activity as well. So, you know, it could be overwhelming your first trip, or, you know, again, you don't know everything that the cruises have to offer. They're all very different and have, you know, very different types of, you know, indoor, outdoor activities that, you know, can, you know, really respond to a whole range of people. So the idea was to create an app that can simplify that tremendously and literally just get you connected. You tell us a little bit about what your activity preferences are once you actually connect to the kind of cruise trip you're going to go on. And then at that point, you are basically prompted to say, hey, what do you want to do now? In the moment, what do you want to do now? And you can either type what you want to do, and then you can see a running list below that to see what is trending and what's happening in real time. So you can just basically see, oh, there's X amount of people there right now currently participating in the poker event or tennis on the boat, because there's tennis, there's golf, there's all kinds of crazy things that are on cruises. And therefore, you know, you get to basically then say, hey, I'm going to be participating, and maybe down the road find the direction to that on the boat, because as I said before, cruises like a mini city. So it's all about kind of really activating people, moving them on to Onward is actually the name of the app. It's just something that we came up with on the fly. And we have a lot of mobile screens set up at the moment. You can see that down below here. We have a brief onboarding experience that goes through the splash screen all the way to kind of connecting the trip, as I mentioned before. And then we had kind of the activity selection piece where you're telling us what you really like. And then at that point, we want to take all these screens, and because UWP really allows you to go from mobile all the way to Xbox and even HoloLens, everything in between, including desktop. So even though maybe people may think desktop is just, you know, you have a machine that's, you know, traditional big box on the floor, you know, this surface right here is considered a desktop PC. It used to be the case. It used to be the case. That's
now it's
way
more
complex
now.
Way
more
now
complex.
There are 2-in-1 convertibles, you know, different device categories that, you know, really Microsoft has helped with their OEM partners develop, and I think that's really taking hold. And so, you know, as you can see here, I'm designing on a Surface 3. You know, the idea behind this is to, you know, if you're just getting started with UX, you can, through XD, really get started. Just have that idea, that kernel, and start plugging away and seeing, vetting your idea in real time, prototyping those scenarios, and really getting a feel for it. Because, again, there's many different ways to work in kind of the workflow of UX. You can start very, you know, if you're just doing it yourself, you might just start with an idea, doing some research, competitive, you know, lookouts. If you're in a different environment, you'll be, you know, look with larger team, you'll have different scenarios where you have research in different phases, part of the process. But again, this is really about just getting started, seeing the benefits of XD, and now we're going to move from mobile, what we have currently, and fleshing a couple of things out, and then moving that into desktop and showing how effective pixels and how the toolkit and how the various tools and elements that we have currently are going to really be seamless, almost a copy-paste with some provisions and obviously things to be considered of from a mobile to a desktop context.
So we will talk about effective pixels,
Effective
which
pixels,
is a
absolutely
concept
we will.
which comes from Microsoft.
Which comes from Microsoft, exactly.
Also today we wanted to talk about responsive design versus adaptive design also,
Absolutely.
Which is always a topic that can be super confusing in the community.
Yes,
so maybe
absolutely.
you can help us, Daniel, with that. And as you are talking, I'm also working on updating the contests that we have.
Oh, fantastic.
So during day 1 and day 2, we asked them to create and share prototypes with Adobe XD. And the theme on day 1 was travel.
Travel. And
The theme on day 2 was food. And yesterday we were very hungry. So it was the last time in history I would use food as a theme.
Yes, especially in the morning, maybe later in the day.
It was very hard for us. So I just came up with a new theme for the day. And the theme is entertainment.
All right.
Yeah, I've just changed it.
Just on the fly. Again, we're working on
over
the fly.
5 minutes, yeah. So this is the theme, entertainment. So it could be really anything. You should be able to see my screen now. And so I will just explain how it works. You can download and install Adobe XD if it's not already the case. Design and experience, at least 3 screens. Okay, so we have something, at least a little bit of navigation with a home screen. If you want to design 8 screens, that's fine too, but at least 3. And use the prototype view to add interaction. So what we mean is that when you have a screen like this, and let's say I will jump to the design view, I'm adding a button here, and I will do another text and say hi. If I you switch to the prototype view, you can say that if I click here, then I jump to this screen with I don't know, we can do a dissolve transition. Okay, so at any time you can test your prototype. Okay, have the dissolve, so that's fine, and you can share it. So there is a share button here, top right corner. It generates a link, and you just have to copy paste this link in the chat. Okay, and we have our moderators. They are listing all your entries, and we will feature your prototypes. And at the end of the show, I will ask Daniel which is your favorite one, and he will tell me this one. And you can win a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription, which means full access to Adobe XD, but also Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere Pro,
it's such a value. It's
InDesign,
crazy.
all the creative apps and services, Typekit. So.
Looking forward to seeing what people bring to the table today. It's been exciting thus far.
And also, it's just for you an opportunity to try XD, have a purpose, and share some feedback with us, because we have just released the XD, XDCC, the official version. It was in beta. It was released last week. But you will see that every month, almost every month, we will release a new version with new features. And we are all still designing and producing XD with the feedback from the community. So don't hesitate also in the chat just to give us feedback, what you think about XD.
Questions, and we'll try to do our best. We see one from Simon already about his behavior about text being lost and opening again. I did experience something like this. I'm not sure if it's a bug, but sometimes the text is hidden itself, so that the layer just goes from being on to off. And if you look at your, basically your layers. Yeah,
there's a layers panel.
Sometimes, depending on the situation, it just might be an on-off value. Not sure if that's going to solve your issue, Simon, but I've seen that happen on my side once or twice. Not sure if it was my error or something else. So I don't know if that's just maybe something that will help you out.
Yeah. So that's that could be it. It could be the rendering engine. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It depends on what's happening on your machine.
There's a lot of variables out there.
Yeah. Don't play video games at the same time.
Don't do that. Maybe I should recap.
Okay, Simon. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay. So let's recap the
just kind of the flow and what everything was looking like.
Yeah. That's
so we have the splash loading screen here. We decided very early on that we wanted to kind of get an onboarding sequence going where you can log in. And the essential aspect is that upon logging in, you're going to be adding your name, password, and again here I just noticed that the link forgot password is removed here, so I'm just going to add it back here.
Okay.
And again, it's very easy to kind of just reclaim where you are. It's a very flexible situation where moving things around, copy pasting gets you kind of really moving fast, so that's fantastic. So the idea is you have your standard input fields for username and password. Here we're kind of we're taking shortcuts a little bit here just because of time. You also have this feature unique to Windows where perhaps you wanted to sign in with Windows Hello, which is kind of similar to Face ID, where you would have essentially 2 cameras and infrared. Just pick up your phone or a device that supports it, and boom, with your face, you're logging in. So that's fantastic. At the end of that, you're basically being prompted to connect your trip. So whether that be on a Carnival cruise or Norwegian or whatever happens to be, the idea is looking out for the 2 different types of major scenarios that people in this particular category might be willing to do. So with cruises, you have a lot of people who are kind of older on just taking vacations, on in retirement, and or just preferences. So you can be dealing with people who would like physical things. Sometimes even I myself like dealing with physical objects, my tickets, my whatever. I know sometimes my wife is more like that than I am, and so we're looking at 2 different variables here. One is connecting your trip via adding a photo. Basically, you have your boarding pass, you would click this button, and your camera would basically turn on, most likely through some various API services in the background that would be worked out in engineering. This is just basically the concept, and you do so, and then it would basically have your itinerary and the activities available that are part of that particular ship or cruise. If you don't want to do that, if you don't have your physical boarding pass, the idea was to be flexible and have another entry point where you can basically just say, hey, I can select the cruise line that I want, like Norwegian or whatnot, like I said, and just add a confirmation number, and basically those background services that would be running in the background would then capture the same information for that particular cruise. At that point, you then have the ability to kind of select your activities based off all those already pre-selected criteria. So this is only offering what the ship would have for you. And again, now you get to basically very quickly using visual cues to kind of elicit kind of a response, because once you see things in motion, if you see someone whether it be playing basketball or shuffleboard or whatever it happened to be, drawing that visual connection with what you might want to be doing really helps, rather than just reading text or some other icons or whatnot. So we would and use the Adobe stock feature, connected that to the service, and you can see here that we also use the repeat grid to actually just populate really quickly. You'll notice that the titles don't necessarily line up at the moment. Again, we're just running really quick with the idea. And with prototyping, depending on where you are in the conceptual development phase, you don't have to have all the things built out, all the various states roll over, whether you're dealing with all those things. It's more important to tell that story. What is your narrative, and what is the payoff? What is the actual result of your work? And so here we're then taking a couple selections. So this is a person who's a little more active. So we got tennis, sailing, rock climbing, sports as that person's preferences. We thank that person, and then you continue on. And now you're getting basically this idea of what you're looking to do now. But we know a little bit about you. So everything that's in this list is going to be things relevant to your preferences. So again, that immediacy, knowing who I am. And the system, hopefully over time, this app will be more and more smart about what you're actually doing, what your preferences and likes are. So behavior over time learning, I think, is very important. You've seen that a lot of different apps and services across the board. And this is speaking to that too. We're going to flesh a little bit of that out. But before we go ahead and do that, what I want to do is just run through the prototype again real quick, just so people see the interaction and just how quick it was. So we're on the design tab right now. You can see in the top left hand corner, but the prototyping tab is right next to it. You'll see that as soon as I start with the original artboard, you can see all the connections made herein. And using the play button, you can see this is the example right here. Oh, shaking, I forgot, does that in Windows 10. So let me go back. And we'll start out with the loading screen. These would basically be animating. You'll have the initial screen. You would click on this particular field to focus it, and then enter your password, and then use this particular button to say log in. And now you're at the connected trip. Again, very straightforward, not a lot of overhead. The idea is to kind of really get started. You obviously know what trip you're taking. You just want to basically use this app to align to the activities that are important to you and see when it's happening and who's there.
Okay.
And then basically I'm connecting a trip. Now I have the ability to scroll down, activities. And now I'm going to be, you know what, I really enjoy sports, and I'm going to click a few others, rock climbing, sailing.
That's what you select. Yeah.
And then I'm going to move forward once I'm done and say continue. And you get a little message that says, thank you for that, and you can come back if you want. We'll show you a little bit how we're going to integrate navigation on a global level as well. And then here you are. We're going to be basically asking you, hey, what do you want to do now? And again, you have the top local activities that are happening that are going to be binded to the preferences you already have.
Yeah.
And that's going to be kind of in a running ticker where you'll also see a little counter of people next to it. We'll be doing that as well. You can drop down, select, and then type in what you are doing. And so that's where we are at the moment. And now we're going to take those screens, kind of finish that flow a little bit, and then move all this from mobile to desktop, and showing you just how simple it is. Because again, one of the things we mentioned before, if you look at the toolkit, which by the way, if you've missed it, is really simple to get to. Basically, when you're opening any new project, you have the dialog box in Adobe XD. Under here are UI kits. You can see the Microsoft Windows link, and clicking upon that link gets you directly to the center where you have the link here, Adobe XD Toolkit, where you can click download, and then you have the file locally saved to your computer, and you're ready to go. And that looks a little bit like this.
I think we have Alexandre asking if you can add a link in Adobe XD, like part. So I guess a link to an external website. No, I don't think so.
No, a live link?
Yeah, a live link.
Oh,
no.
No.
But
interesting idea.
Yeah, interesting. That could be a conversation that you can have on adobe.xd.uservoice.com. I'm pretty sure that there is a feature request for that, but like every time the XD team is thinking about adding a new features, they really want to understand the use case.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is not something that you want in production. Like you don't use Adobe XD to create a live experience, although it publishes a web page at the end. You don't want it to be like something that you expose, or use it. I don't know,
I think this is like
to have a slider on your website.
Right.
So
this is a validation tool. I think it really helps designers not just construct the actual entire flow, and again working with all the other Adobe tools like Illustrator and whatnot to kind of get that high fidelity all the way from low. We started very low on the first day. Remember, we went directly to XD. It was very bare bones, black white wireframes. And then basically layering on detail to where we are now, using bits and pieces of the toolkit that UWP relies on to kind of flesh out the rest of the pieces that we need, getting to where we are today, and then again vetting that through the prototyping phase, making sure that the interactions feel right, that there's no incongruity with what you're doing from a user experience point of view.
And also they have a question about can I use a link with Lightroom to directly use my pictures. Actually, it's an interesting feature request because today, Ahmed is saying we have access to the Creative Cloud libraries where you get photos. So if you look at the workflow that Daniel has been using yesterday, he was on Adobe Stock. He added a bunch of pictures in the Creative Cloud library.
I'm bringing it up right now.
Yeah, here they are, and drag and drop them directly in a repeat grid. So Lightroom now, so we have announced last week that there is a new version of Lightroom CC, and all the pictures are in the cloud. And you can access, so we have some APIs where you can access your Lightroom catalog. So every time you take a picture, you edit a picture, everything is synced in the cloud. And we have some apps such as Spark, where you can access your Lightroom pictures. And there is another one, I forgot, but some mobile apps also. Yeah, I don't remember which ones, but it's not in XD, but actually it's a good point. Especially if you want to target photographers. Yeah,
absolutely.
That could make sense, yeah.
Absolutely.
But, again, it's a good feedback. Feel free to visit, I see the link in the chat, User Voice. This is where we have these discussions directly with engineers and the project managers. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, like even Lightroom CC, like non-destructive workflow, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's components here within XD that are very much like that for masking and whatnot. So
yeah,
there's really a lot of synergy in terms of like the overall thinking behind how Adobe builds their tools that are very consistent, including shortcuts. I've been using tools from Adobe forever, and it really helps. Muscle memory. You just know exactly what to do when you're doing random things like pushing down layers up and top. It's really intuitive. Okay, so how about if there's not anything else, we can probably get started. Yes?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So now we're at the, what are you looking to do? And there's a couple of things I want to do just housekeeping really quickly. You can see that, there's a couple of type things that we have not yet ratified. And then we're going to basically make sure that this feed here is going to encompass things in real time. So we want to add a couple of elements. One, when is that happening? So like this is happening in 20 minutes, this is happening in 30 minutes, this is happening now, and X amount of people there. So there's a couple of things you're going to see here. I'm going to go back to Adobe, let me bring it up again. The libraries itself, and go to the cloud. Where are you at? Do I not have it open already? I do not have it open.
Which one do you need?
Stock. I'm going to go to Adobe Stock.
Okay. Oh yeah, stock.adobe.com.
There we go.
Here we go.
Thought I had it open, but now we're okay. We're getting there.
So stock.adobe.com, make sure you're signed in. We now have more than 100 million assets. So you have pictures, also vector illustrations, 3D objects, videos, including 4K videos.
So much content.
Yeah, a lot of content.
A lot of content.
If you are a content creator, you can also monetize your content. You know, if you're a photographer or a video maker or illustrator, there is a contribute section in Stock, and you can also, if you want, sell your content. You know?
So I'm just going to pick a couple of faces that I want to populate. You know, this individual, is going to be here. So eventually, the app over time, the idea was that as you kind of select your activities, you can also then add your own preferences, and as you kind of align to the activities that other people are doing, you'll see them pop up on your feed. So it's not quite Tinder, it's not like that, but it gives you an idea of who else will be kind of participating in those events. So again, it's really about that community, really simple, really quick, just to kind of get you, out and about. You're on vacation, you want to have a good time. So I'm going to add a few people real quick. It's really simple, and it's already going to my library, which is what I'm using already. I'm going to use a couple of photos that just really stand out, kind of diversity of different ages. So already it's
good pictures.
Good pictures already, and I'm not even doing anything.
And again, what's good with Adobe Stock, especially when you're in the prototyping phase, is that you can use previews, which are free of use. We just add Adobe Stock watermark, and it's in your library. And if your customer at the end says, okay, actually I really want to keep this one, you just have to go back to your library, license the picture, and it will download the high resolution file and replace it in XD, or in Photoshop, everywhere you are using the preview. So we always keep a link with the original picture in Adobe Stock, and when you decide to license it, it will replace everywhere in your design, including in InDesign, by the way. Every time you use it from the Creative Cloud library, it will just replace it.
Yes, and super fast. Okay, so I think I have enough imagery here.
Okay.
And again, you can see that happening in real time, which is fantastic. There was almost no lag there.
Yeah.
And what's really great is, like, even though this panel is not in XD, I can really have these two side by side if I wanted to kind of evaluate things. And again, Windows have a snapping feature, so you can see that.
That's nice.
So I can even take that and bring things, parallel. It kind of went off there.
Dynamic snapping.
Yeah, dynamic snapping. So we'll use that a little bit later on, but I just wanted to show that feature real quick. And then I'm in design now, and let's just get started. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to take this item here and just change the fill to what we're now using, which is white across the board. And if this was a symbol, again, I started without having this being a symbol. It was from the toolkit. One of the things I want to mention real quick, if you're looking at building symbols, which Adobe XD supports, including overrides, you basically can import all the various tool elements you would want, especially when it comes to buttons. So let's look at the buttons real quick. And you'll notice that there are button states for everything. So rest, focus, hover, click. And those would be the starting pieces of your symbol library, essentially. So you would have that same element, and then if you're doing navigation, you can see how just easy that is. And many people use that as a common convention. And now you could even do overrides, so you can do linking directly in the prototyping, so that the whole object itself is not selected, but just the particular object you want is selected. All right. And let's say this person, the thing I want to type, let's find a word that is more, let's say, rock climbing.
So Matthias, he wants a pop-out function for the chat. Okay. So we have a list of features for the Behance UI. This is one of the first official Adobe Live show on Behance. Let us know if it was the first time that you were watching a live stream by Adobe this week. So Matthias, okay. It's in our feature request for the Behance team. I'm not sure it's it's in the top priority for the chat, but it's definitely there. But we want to add more stuff to the chat. I mean, you will see week after week we will add some cool stuff. Hi, Ellen. Thanks for coming back. Last day, yeah. But we will be live next week, every week actually. So if you come back every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on behance.net/live, you will have exclusive new live content. Next week we will be live with graphic designers, and they will use packaging as an application, and they will use in their workflow Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, but also the new application called Adobe Dimension.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you heard of it, but Dimension lets you...
The 3D?
Yeah, use 3D objects.
Yes, I have. Very cool.
and you can map the texture you want, but also you can now apply the design. Like if you design a logo in Illustrator, you can put it on the 3D object, and it will. You can add a photo in the background, and it will render a photorealistic picture.
No more compositing, and like thinking about how you actually make all that happen for packaging. It's really a fantastic tool.
For mock-ups or to create a billboard advertisement. This is what the industry is doing, like more and more. Like when you have an advertisement in the street, this is rarely a picture.
Yes.
They use more and more 3D. Like all the, even for video, like I've been to a talk by The Mill, which is a motion design agency
I know The Mill.
in LA. And every time there is a TV advertisement, a video with a car, it's a 3D car. It's never a real car.
Never a real car.
Never.
So there's one thing that I want to do too here. I want to actually take this drop-down component, which I pull from the toolkit.
Okay.
And you can see that here. All right. See that little item here?
Oh, yeah. It's here.
And we already changed the color, but I'm finding that I want to have a little bit more connection and not just have this standard white on yellow. What I want to do is bring in a material, and in Fluent Design System that's available right now, there's one material and they're planning to add more. But the idea is that we're putting like acrylic or different materials that will come down the pike to kind of really give that sense of depth and the idea that layering and structure. It's going to help in terms of defining hierarchy, but also just looking at also there's an emotive quality to it, right? The emotion you get from it. And if you go way on the
acrylic.
right.
Oh, here you have some examples. Okay.
Right, so this is the actual material, and you can see what it's doing to the background. And it's not just a blur, there's blur, noise, opacity, the brightness channels being changed as well. And that's all being done in XD, right? So this is not Photoshop.
This is a background blur.
Right, exactly.
You can see it's checked on the right.
Oh yes, you can see the appearance panel on the right
with the
those
background
particular variables. And what's really great, it's, you can see just how it's, on the edges especially, giving you that nice, blowout, if you will.
So Ellen is asking, would there be photo manipulation with Photoshop? Photoshop compositing? Yeah, there will definitely be a live stream, an Adobe Live event on Photoshop compositing. Pretty soon, actually. And we had one, actually, Helen. I remember having a Mike Campo.
Okay.
He's a champion, Photoshop champion. 200. And yeah, Corey Barker also. Yeah, good point, Nathan. So we had some Photoshop masters live, but yeah, we need more. I agree.
So again, I'm using shortcuts. So if you're wanting to ask, Control bracket up will bring it closer and closer to the top.
Oh yeah, I think it's the most useful.
It is. I use that gratuitously to
arrange.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can do Control Shift, right? Brackets
to snap it all the way up or snap it all the way down, or progressively. And again, depending on how you're organizing it, sometimes if you're working on the fly, you're not always managing your layers.
Yep.
But again, that's why these kind of shortcuts really help, because then you don't have to think about it all the time, and you're kind of really more buttoned up. It depends again how you work.
And for a month, with the first releases of XD, we didn't have the layers panel. Like there was no layers.
No, there was no layers.
Just using that.
So you can see a little bit of that effect, and as we actually change this list behind that, you'll get that impact a lot more. But now there's a great relationship between the actual input field itself, and again, this is a type ahead kind of situation where I'm typing rock climbing. I haven't quite finished it, but I already have my various selections here, like rock climbing beginner class, advanced class, indoor track, which I've seen where you basically are just on this conveyor belt. Not to say that I'm ever going to be doing that myself, but I know a lot of people find that really challenging and exciting. I think I just need to do a lot more exercise and get active again. So there's a couple of things we're going to do. We're going to take these down in size. And again, what's really great is, you know, I can basically look at what I'm doing in these lists and at the same time just affect their size at the same time, which is really fantastic. Including their bounding box, because if this is something that I'm using that, so I really enjoy that feature a lot. Just to actually make sure that everything is aligned correctly. Change a little of these guys here.
So we received 2 prototypes already. You want to see them?
Oh, I would love to see them. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, because so the theme of the day is entertainment. We received one about to truck at any time. Tow truck. I'm not sure what this is.
Okay, let's check it out.
And this is onboarding. This is a sign-in experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Very clean.
Yeah.
Very clean. I like that there's a progress bar.
Yeah.
100% of battery.
100%.
Very
which
rare.
never
happens.
Never happens. It happens for like a minute.
And we have another one about music, which is also part of the entertainment family.
Looks like
Start making music.
Start making. Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see that.
Oh.
Recent work, so... Oh, like, I guess, previous, what's the name? Tracks that you recorded. And I want to buy... Okay, I can buy, some kits, I guess.
Ah,
that's
like
a fun
beat
kit.
machine?
Oh,
or
yeah, with, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, a beat machine, yeah, a beatbox. Kit, okay, and there is a hamburger. So I can export, save my files, apparently. Upload to SoundCloud. Yeah, nice feature.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the color theme. Very soft.
Mm-hmm. Even the typography, it's you know, it's just bringing me into that particular space.
Very soft, very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good job, yeah. Keep sharing.
Yes, please do.
We will feature your prototypes during this show. And at the end, we will ask Daniel which one do you prefer, and you can win a 1-year Credit Plus subscription.
So another thing I've been talking about is a lot of the icons we've been using here.
And Mariam is asking you how will you show the drop down? You know, what type of transition you will use in the prototype view.
Oh yes, okay, so we can actually just look at that. Now, right now it's a simple dissolve. So here you can see if I'm tapping anywhere else, well, it's not working here. But you can see that typing that will just basically give the drop down illusion.
Okay.
It's a simple dissolve to make that work. Because basically the transitions in XD right now are more on the page level rather than the individual like objects or components themselves. So dissolve for me often works as a quick way of just mimicking the quickness of these things happening.
Yeah, because you can change the duration. So you can have like a very quick dissolve.
Right, so mine right now, with that in mind, is like 0.2 seconds, right? So it's really quick.
It's a quick one.
It's a quick one.
So, Mikey, the deadline for the contest, actually the contest will run for 8 hours because today we are live for 2 hours with Daniel, then we will welcome back Madis and Rolf, and then for 2 hours where we'll also feature prototypes. Then we will have Nick and Ian, they are still working on this video game UI, and we will end with Tallinn from the Adobe XD team live with Daniel, who is also an experienced designer at Adobe. So 8 hours of live today, and it really gives you time to create a prototype. The theme is entertainment, and share it with us. You will work on something during lunch. Okay, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, let us know in the chat what you are doing now. It's always interesting to know, if you are at work. Sometimes we have viewers, they are at school. If you're at home. I saw that, Matthias, you have to put the kids to bed. That's good. Good dad.
So, as I was mentioning, the icons that we're using are part of the Segoe family, already part of Windows 10. So you'll see that the type we're using is Segoe UI itself. It's a humanistic typeface, really great for scaling for different scenarios and languages. And the subset of that is Segoe, if you can see on my right-hand screen here, text, Segoe MDL2 assets, which has a lot of the different icons that are already used in the actual apps that are UWP apps on Windows 10. So it's really great to have these kind of font library, very robust. I don't have to go anywhere. I could even go into like the default character map and see all of them. And again, I just want to show just how many there are. There's a lot, essentially.
It's a good set of icons.
Yeah. A good set of icons, exactly. So I'm going to pick an icon where it's going to enter the idea of an edit scenario. So let's see here, or maybe just a drop down, but let's look at edit. Let's look at edit here.
So we have Alexandre working from home. We have Mariam. She's designing data sheets. Wow. Within design. Wow, not easy.
In design, okay.
Yeah. And Helen, she's drinking coffee and doing an illustration in Photoshop. Nice. Helen, maybe you can share this illustration with us, if you want to put a link in the chat. And hopefully soon on Behance we'll have a way to share what you are working on. That would be awesome.
Yes, it would be. So there's a couple of things that I want to do on this page here. I want to be able to have the user edit their scenario. So you chose a bunch of activities, but that's not always going to be the activities you're interested in. This is where you are going. So this is going to be kind of more of a title treatment. So I'm going to add that real quick. Again, one of the things I want to point out is the type ramp. Basically, with Microsoft's suggestions for hierarchy in terms of like your type use. So you have header, subheader. So if you pull this in, you can simply just copy paste and boom, there you go, right? Not at all complicated.
It's great. I remember when they released the new UI of Windows Mobile. Like the typography work was so clean, it was so easy to read. Like even emails and stuff. Really did a good job. And
what I want to do here is actually take all these elements here and shift them over just a little bit, or actually more to the point.
So George, the trial is 1 week, so you can try for free all the Creative Cloud apps actually for a week. Because we just discovered that this was when the trial is, so people trying our apps were active. It was always during the first week. So we said, okay, let's do 1 week. And Flo, you took the day off. Oh, good for you. Thanks for watching. It's nice.
You could use a simple color picker, or you could actually just go to all the colors you have. I don't know why the color picker is wrong. Just gonna do that. Turn that off. I think I'm going to get rid of all of this right now. Again, I just want to have this be a running feed of activity. So what I'm going to actually do is have much more of that going on.
Nice.
And then copy all those items.
Yesterday with Madison Rolf, we used the repeat grid to create a calendar.
A calendar, yes. Very fast.
Super fast.
Super fast. However, you have the toolkit, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
You have a calendar right here.
Oops. I thought about it after. So, there is a calendar. I saw it with Daniel.
So again, those are the great thing toolkits, right? You don't have to start from scratch. But again, Adobe allows you to kind of build one really rapidly, which is fantastic.
Okay, Helen, let me see what you're working on.
Another prototype?
She's working on an illustration, but actually she used XD to share it with us.
Okay.
That's smart. Oh, it's so cute.
Oh, look at that. Little pug.
It's so cute.
That's making me miss my dog. He's a kind of, we don't know, he's a mutt, he's a cavapoo, cockapoo, I'm not really sure. But he's just cute, that's all I know. That's all that matters.
That's cool. Thanks, Helen.
And yes, what I want to do here is take away the icons for a second too, and just focus on all the photos. So I'm going to bring in my photos again from my live, so you can see it again, and start at the top. Click Shift Hold, so you can click, then Shift Hold, select everything down below, and hopefully I have that focused again. There you go. There, boom.
Oh, yeah, good job.
So the idea is that this would be kind of names that are more appropriate to the activities. These are not quite matching. We were reaching out to the community before to really get the names of some of the activities.
Yeah.
And so these were just a little bit of what the community was helping us with in creating content. In the real world, you're going to be either working with copywriters, content strategists. You're going to be working with the actual business entities themselves to define all these variables. Here in the moment, we're just making these things up to kind of show and express the idea. And again, we had to thank the community for just helping us out get started. So that really helped us out.
Mariam, she's sharing the data sheet she's working on in InDesign. I hope there is no confidential information. Huh? Okay, don't roll the track. Oh yeah, like it's pure graphic design print work with a lot of plugs.
With a lot.
Yeah, if you need electricity.
Wattbox. Okay.
By Wattbox.
Oh, that looks very
cloud
industrial.
Controlled power conditions. Oh yeah, it's super advanced. You can control the plugs with the cloud.
With the cloud.
Yeah. It's very clean. Good job.
Holding Alt in Adobe gives you, of course, kind of relative spacing guides, which is really great. So I can make sure that I'm staying within my grid. If I'm in a 6x6 or 4x4, whatever it happens to be, somewhere 2x2, whatever you want, I can just hold Alt and see just how I'm holding that. So right now I want a little distance between that. I'm going to go back to reference my toolkit. Let's say that I'm not really familiar with hierarchy, and I really want to rely on something that's really well thought out. Again, the type ramp will really help me with that. And I think I went the wrong way again. There we go. And I want to use a caption style, which is down below here, and look at the style 12 regular. So that's what I'm gonna do. And boom, done.
Hi Mustafa, welcome.
So what I'm doing is adding, and you can see that I've changed radically the list structure already. I'm giving it more space. I want to add a lot more meta information so that you can see the activities that you might enjoy, again, informed by your selection already. This is all the things that are available in that ship, and now I'm going to have basically a running ticker of things like a live stream saying things that are happening now, 20 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, so you can have a clear idea of like, hey, it's happening now, I want to get to it, or a little later on, I'll tap on that and perhaps, see, like, remind me later, or that I'm interested, kind of like a Facebook thing. But again, I'm adding a little bit of metadata right now. Oops. Let's go.
Wine tasting. I would go to this one. In 15 minutes, okay. I can wait.
In 15 minutes? And what's really great, I'm going to look for a little timer clock. We did this yesterday as well. You can basically inline, and I'll show it just to
oh yeah, reference. That was good.
Let's see, where is the clock? There it is.
Hi Khalid,
right now,
the theme of the day is entertainment. Yeah. Khalid was asking.
I'll do my drop down and select the MDL asset, and there you go, in 15 minutes. I'm going to take all of that and start replicating that.
Nice. So Mike is asking, what app are you getting those glyphs from? So it's a typeface.
It's a typeface. It's included with Windows operating system, Windows 10 specifically. And what's really fantastic is if you're a designer, you don't have to actually go out to anywhere. It's already embedded within the operating system. In fact, it's what's reliant for anyone who's developing apps that are native first-party apps using that same font icon system. So that's what's really great. You're using the same things that designers at Microsoft are using. So these have been tested. These have been, there's a lot of labor and love that's been put into these icons. to make them really, again, like I said, scale, work well, legibility. There's a lot of guidelines. Going back to that site that I mentioned earlier.
And what is the name of the Windows feature to display, the app to display all the glyphs?
Oh yes, that's Character Mapper. I use that. There's different ways of doing that, and I'll show you guys a different set of tools as well that are all available on the Windows Store. I think it's now called Microsoft Store. You'll see here XAML UI controls and UWP Community Toolkit. We'll maybe speak to that at the end.
Okay.
Where in doing that, you'll see that, especially if you want to get a little bit more into the engineering side and how it's actually going to be developed, you can see that they go into light and dark theme, even writing XAML code. And looking at the control types, and so what's really great about it.
So XAML is the
markup language
to design the UI, right?
Yes, it's the markup language that
is HTML of Windows app.
Right, and it's really extensible. It's really fantastic. But here you can see everything from sliders. You can actually see the actual live working code, whether it be pivots, and you can really see how all that works. So Microsoft really does all they can to bridge designers and developers, if you're ever that curious, to see things in real time and get a feel for it. So with Adobe tool and Microsoft support working together, you can really get a good hold. And the other tool real quick is the UWP community tool. Again, communities are very important. We're looking at tools here.
Okay.
And just real quick, you'll see I'll look at maybe, let's go down here and look at...
These are patterns or
these are all various controls or patterns, including even animations. Let's look at animations real quick. We'll look at scale. And again, these are just things that you can do, and so you know what options are available for you as a designer.
And it shows you the code also?
Yes, you can see that the documentation for it is also there, JavaScript and code. So if you wanted to plug in, you can get all that for free on the Microsoft Store. We'll again come back to this, and we'll give the name so you can easily get to that. So let's just finish this out real quick. There we go.
Yeah, back in the days I used to be a subscriber of what was the name? MSDN?
Oh, MSDN, Microsoft Developer Network. Yes. A lot of advances. You can see that the Microsoft Dev Center, which is where you go for the UI toolkit, there's a whole section just dedicated for designers. And what's really great is sometimes it might be a little difficult for designers who are starting out, who are brand new, to get overwhelmed with, kind of all the detailed, more developer-centric language and samples. But that section alone is really about design, the Fluent Design System. It's really about understanding layout conventions, like again with the 6 R's, like reposition, re-architect. These are all things that help you with responsive building responsive layouts. All that information, that guidance, that documentation, all in that section. And you can see on the left-hand side of the panel. It's really simple to get to. And you can search too. So that little variables, let's say this starts in 25 minutes. This is in 40.
So Helen is asking, so she loves designing in XD, like prototyping experiences, but she cannot code, like she doesn't, and she doesn't like it. Like,
yes,
it's not her thing. So she's asking, like, is there a market for this? Is there, if she applies just as a UX designer who cannot code?
Yes, there's all kinds of different types of designers at Microsoft. Some are very heavy in visual design, right? So they're really about how we really communicate through graphic language the principles of, our Fluent Design principles. So the idea about how if you don't really get close to the developing side of it, the code and the engineering, you may touch it a little bit just to kind of get an understanding to work better with your peers and developers, but you can also be in part of teams that are really about just the graphic design expression of what you want to do. Again, that's really important because you're there helping people understand various things of, whether it be hierarchy and information density, how to tell a story within, a very utility-driven app. There's so many different scenarios, so many different teams. Microsoft is a city unto itself. So, there are numerous jobs. I think they're always hiring. So feel free, don't feel discouraged. There's a lot of different, positions open.
And anywhere. So I know a lot of designers working for Facebook or Google, and they don't know how to code because they just focus on the user experience. They have a lot of empathy. They can anticipate, the user behaviors. They can run interviews, do some research. Like there's so many fields.
Contextual inquiries. There's the whole psychology behind how we design. You mentioned the empathy model. The reason, the how. Those are the big UX questions we generally start with, right? Here, we're just basically kind of giving you a small snippet of what the UX design process can be. And again, it scales from like a small team, maybe just me and another person like Michael. It could be an individual, but it could also be a large organization. And your role in it is really contingent on how you're solving problems that are really user-centered and what are those things that are going to be of value to them, but also to the business at the very end of the day. And so you have to think about all the things that are relevant there. And there's a lot of questions there, right? There's a lot of hard work. Surveys, interviews, there's
it becomes more and more critical.
Testing. Oh, absolutely.
Like, there is a direction if you look at all the companies and all the successful recent companies, such as Airbnb or they are very, very design-centric. So you can really tell that UX design was at the heart of the company since day one, and focusing on the user experience, then everything it just creates a natural flow until the final application. Even for developers, it's easier. To be honest. Because it's not driven by technology. Sometimes you have to understand the technology to innovate also in terms of design, but the technology shouldn't drive the experience.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
So we have Jesus David Rios joining us from Colombia. And he's speaking with us in the chat in Spanish.
All right.
Esto es de la página web que ofrece Adobe por tener Creative Cloud. Okay, esto es de la. Okay, so this is the web page that gives Adobe to get Creative Cloud. Okay, Jesus David, sorry, I'm trying a live translation, but.
Actually made a mistake here, but easy to correct.
Son las innovaciones de la página web que ofrecen por tener Creative Cloud. Wouldn't be a bad thing. Benefits of using the Surface. Oh, they are talking about the Surface Pro, I think.
Oh, okay.
And the benefits of using the Surface with Adobe Creative Cloud. And so first, the device is like you can travel.
Yes.
Like if you're on the go, it's a full PC.
Full PC. I've added the little keyboard. You can't see, but the little keyboard here.
Very nice.
Or else I wouldn't be able to really design. But beyond that, you could also buy the pen accessory.
Yeah, there is the pen. It's pressure sensitive. You can use Photoshop and the brushes. We have some digital painter, including Sid Weiler. She was a creative resident at Adobe. She's the illustrator, and she used the Surface Pro a lot to create her illustrations. And she created a set of not icons, but when you chat and you add some animations in the chat, Also on iOS, like you can add some small animations, and you buy kits of animations for the chat.
Whether it be animated GIFs, stickers.
Yeah, like stickers.
Yes.
And she created one.
I'm addicted to that.
With trash doves, like purple doves, and it became super trendy.
Really?
In one country, I don't remember, Thailand, I think.
Okay.
But like it was on TV and stuff. Like people went crazy. They had T-shirts of the trash doves, and she did everything on a Surface Pro. And also the Surface Pro is a touch device, so you will see that when you launch Photoshop or Illustrator, it will ask you, do you want to turn the UI into a touch UI? So Photoshop and Illustrator can adapt the UI, so you can use touch to draw shapes, to zoom in, zoom. It's a good experience. And we have Helen. She has the Surface Pro and she loves it. Yeah. The new one, the 4, is super impressive.
Yes, it is.
The 3 was already good, but the 4, wow, super good. Also, I had the chance to test the Surface Studio, the 5K screen.
Yes, I had the opportunity of when I was at Microsoft to work with that with my team. I was on the Maps team, fantastic group of people there. And we did a lot of things with maps with the pen, where you can just draw on the map itself and get distance, for instance. Like whether you're running, I used to do a lot of track and cross and all that. And sometimes you just want to know how far you really doing, or just aspirationally, like, I want to get to that. What is that looking like? How far is that for me? And sometimes if you go to Google Maps and all that, that's not going to help you all the time, because it's not taking the route you want. Here you can just draw the route you want.
Oh, that's a nice
and
feature.
You get that all within just one package, one map app, and it's all there, first party. You don't have to download anything; it's just there.
So, Sharif, can we design using a pen or some object on a Surface Pro? Yeah. So Microsoft, they sell a pen.
Yes, they do.
It's a Microsoft one. Okay. And the Surface Studio, it's very good. Also, there is this object, the dial, I think. This round. It's like a cylinder.
Yes, and that really adapts to all kinds of scenarios.
And the new Photoshop that has been released last week, you can use the dial to change the size of the brush. You just choose what you want to do with it.
Isn't it also cool. Aimed for Premiere too, for scrubbing?
Yeah,
video?
for scrubbing,
right.
For the timeline, the playhead. Yeah. It's so cool when you see like new devices like this, completely changing the way you interact with an app.
Absolutely.
Every time, like the touch bar on the new MacBook Pro. Sometimes I'm not convinced, but sometimes it really makes sense. Like with some apps, you're like, oh, actually, it's very smart. Yeah.
Let's see.
It's cool for developers too. Like you have new ways to interact with the users. Some people in the chat, they dream of having a Surface Studio. Yeah,
I dream of that too.
Like, I think it's maybe the best monitor I've ever seen. I've been working on, like, just the monitor.
Just the monitor itself. Yeah, it's just how thin it is too. Like, actually, the more impressive thing is when you get close and you're really using like a draft board, the distance between the pen and the surface itself. It actually really feels like you're not on glass, and the responsiveness is dynamite. I can't laud it enough. It's really fantastic. Let me see something here real quick.
Janet's asking how important is it for UX designers to have a UI kit icons on the screen? So it's more like when, like Daniel, for instance, he's building an application for Windows users. And Microsoft, in this case, has already defined a lot of UI patterns, behaviors, and design patterns. So if Microsoft is using in all the native apps this icon to get back to the home screen, you should stick to it, because the user is already trained. So the user will launch your app, and when they will see the home icon, they know this is a home icon. So in video games, it's different. You want to design everything from scratch, just to give a new atmosphere, a new mood to the video game, including the home icon. You can draw something crazy. But when it comes to apps, you want to be efficient, and you want the user to focus on the user flow and the content. You don't want the user to be distracted by what is the meaning of this app, such as the hamburger menu. Now it's something that
those conventions really help reduce cognitive resistance in terms of really understanding what's familiar within the ecosystem that you're in, and those things really help your success of your app, because you're not worrying about all the visual details or the the patterns that are going to be really understood. You're worrying on the experience. Again, as a UX designer, that experience is paramount. Like how the person or people that you're reaching out to are going to succeed in their task or accomplish their goal, whatever your app is about. It's about focusing that energy there. And of course, you can always add, Microsoft is really open. You can really add your personality, your brand elements, your identity, of course. But again, if you're just starting out and you really want to look at what's around you to have that fast attraction of success, I would suggest starting with the toolkits. Those are the Legos, the building blocks. If you watch any build conference from people who are speaking about it, on those who work at Microsoft, they often say that, and you'll see that in a lot of the guidance that is available online. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up and start moving on. So now this list is a little more fleshed out, and now we're just going to make sure that everything that we had built before is still working, in case I made it a little, club here, so we're going to go back to the preview. And in fact, I'm going to change gears here and update my link. So this is something that I find super convenient. You know, I believe you have to
make sure it works on
to make sure it works. Like I believe that any designer really has to work in the devices that they're building for, or at least have a connection to them. When I was working at Windows, self-hosting and basically using devices that Microsoft built was really great for designers to get a good handle on that. So I actually have my old 950 here just to get sure that I'm in that same kind of environment. So I'm going to basically share again, update link. You can see it on the screen. And what's great about Windows is I actually pinned. You can see here I pinned it, Adobe Live Event, the little icon here.
Oh, good job.
And it should open up right to the browser. There you go. 10 o'clock today to 26.
Okay, so it's up to date.
It's up to date. And then, so this is a splash screen. Boom, everything's working really well. I can see by tapping anywhere else the little indicator of where the next target is. So I'm going to focus on the enter password. I'm great. I can see the next one, which is the kind of commit or enter button. Okay.
Looks like it's rolling here on YouTube.
Oh, we're good now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it's just a refresh. We can say in the chat before people hit post. It could be the YouTube player behavior and not the stream. So if they just refresh.
So here you can see the continuing path. I'm going to basically connect the trip there. Great. I select my activity preferences. I'm going to select sports. Fantastic. And then I'm going to scroll down to continue. Thank you. And then I get the list that I just updated right now.
Nice. Looks good.
And then I was like,
I like the
indication of how many people are there. Yeah, and we'll add a little indicator maybe of like how many more people. This is just a sample. And then there you go. I'm going to start typing in.
Drop down.
There you go. And then,
it looks, so you cannot really see with the GoPro, but it's so crisp.
Yes, absolutely.
It really looks like a real
app.
Yeah.
Like it was rendered right on it. And that's what's really fantastic about it. So
if you show it to your users or customers, they really think that it's a real app. It's so good.
Absolutely. And with minimal effort, like that was literally just 2 clicks. All right, so now we're gonna move on. We're gonna kind of have this flow kind of on pause, and you don't want to move too far in just one particular view or screen state. So we kind of have the idea of what we're looking for, and thankfully the way in which we designed this was already thinking ahead, thinking about how this would basically lay out, reflow, or re-architect itself in a desktop scenario. And that's what's really great in the effective pixels, as we mentioned before. When you're looking at the toolkit itself, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is the controls. When you move to let's say a higher resolution screen, or your the DPI, the density of your particular screen, you don't have to worry about that as a designer. That's completely hands off for you. Yeah. You never have to scale a control to think, oh, I'm going to be designing for Xbox or TV lean back experience. No, you basically have the controls and actually UWP as a whole system taking care of that for RU. So again, that's called effective pixels. It understands and renders that depending on various plateaus within the operating system. So guess what, designers? You just get to do the fun stuff and use the toolkit as it is. And since I use a lot of the elements from the toolkit, I don't have to worry about any resistance. So now what I'm going to do is add a little more structure to my artboard here. I'm going to say that this is the phone experience.
Nice. And we received a new prototype. If you want to check it,
I would love to.
It's called Watching Timer. It's by Simon. An app to manage your watching movies and series and to know when the next episode is out. Okay, so that's cool. So you can manage movies. So it's a nice onboarding, with a slider, login. Oh my god!
Oh, look at that!
I need to watch the new season. Watch it.
Yeah, I'm excited for next Stranger Things.
Me too.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. Okay, and I have the calendar and
nice.
my movies. Okay, nice. Nice pattern here. Full profile. calendar.
Oh, a little grid view here with the artwork, key art there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, Simon. So
Watch
keep
your time.
sharing. The theme of the day is entertainment, and at the end of the show, we will ask Daniel which one is his favorite one, and you can win a 1-year credit card subscription. Is there a way to scroll the items of the artboards besides using zoom to selection? To scroll the items of the artboard.
Like this?
I don't know. Yeah.
Is this what you mean?
Also, if you have a trackpad, I'm a big user of the trackpad. I like to zoom in, zoom out, use also 2 fingers to pan. And it's so fast in XD, like I don't even think about it. Just zoom in, pan, zoom.
Yeah, so like I have the keyboard pad
you
here.
have also the keyboard
So
pad.
I'm doing that with my 2 fingers. Or I have my mouse, which has a scroll wheel, and so I'm able to do that as well, rather than going plus, minus, or holding space. I've just gotten accustomed to spacing around. That's the way I kind of do things. Again, it's really about what your preference is.
Okay.
All right, so per guidance for UWP, we have started with a artboard screen size of 360 by 640. And I think sometimes you'll have different platforms use different resolution sizes. So sometimes 320, 640. But from experience, 360, 640 is kind of your base default for a phone. That's going to capture kind of like the bare, the bare size you need. Now for desktop, that's going to change though. We're going to go to a different artboard size, and we're looking at 1366 by 768. You'll see that right here. Oh, yep, web 1366, and so that's what I want right there. Make sure everything's aligned, because that just irks me. And now I'm going to show you just how simple it is to kind of move from one experience on over to the other. So basically I want to start laying that foundation down. And as I was saying earlier, you don't want to move too far. You have a simple flow. The core of it was really about selecting your activities and then seeing what that list would be. There's going to be a lot of other things. You might want to look into navigation and whatnot, and we can get to that as well. But you really want to make sure that you start looking at these things side by side. And that's
Can I test something? There's a behavior in XD, and I'm not sure, because I saw that you selected the color. So let's say we have the yellow selected here. If we add it as an asset, so I know it becomes a global color.
Yes, then you can change it universally throughout the entire thing.
But is it like even this? Because we created the color after, so that's what
so
I'm wondering.
Artboard versus...
Oh yeah, okay. So it will look for the reference in all the artboards to change it.
And that's groovy. Oh.
Make it pop.
Ooh. Oh, okay, now seizure. Now we won't be able to finish.
Okay, Control Z.
Control Z. Thank you.
Okay. So, no, but that was something I was wondering, because in Illustrator it's different.
Yeah.
In Illustrator, when you create a global color, for each item, each object, you have to say, I'm using this global color. Where here it's cool because the reference of the color becomes global. And anywhere you use it in all your artboards, you can change it. So yeah, make sure to check the assets panel, because a lot of XD users, they don't really understand the concept of symbols and global colors, but this is the biggest time saver in your workflow. Like just changing a color like this, because the customer says, oh no, yellow is not part of our strategy, or
that's going to happen.
We are not Lufthansa. I don't know.
It's right. You're going to be working with a lot of, either your peers, stakeholders, art directors, whoever happens to be, and you're going to want to have a way to respond to the feedback really quickly, and not have it really be, cost to you in time. So already, just looking at what the splash loading screen on desktop, I just literally copy, pasted, and again, going back to my comment about effective pixels, there's no need to, and I group this item really quickly, so there's no need to scale elements. I can turn it around, but there's no need to do that, because again, the system's going to understand, even at the craziest, let's say this, for instance, even though it's 13 inches, right, it's a very small screen, has a high resolution, right? It's 2160 by, I can't remember what it is. It's a crazy resolution. But the idea is the platform's understanding the actual size relative to the kind of distance you're going to be more likely interacting with it. And so this, when it's full screen, there's no full screen option yet in XD, correct?
No, there is no cinema mode.
But again, if I just do...
I think there is in, actually, Now, there is, when you share a prototype on the web, there is a cinema mode.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure. Let me check.
So even though you're seeing it here, and you can see that I'm previewing it and opening that window all the way up, in reality, it's going to be basically to the correct size relationship. So if you hold your phone up relative to where you are to this, they're going to have nearly the equivalent size. And that's what's really great about the UWP platform itself. That's why you're able to go from phone, tablet, desktop, Xbox, and even HoloLens for AR.
So yeah, so I can show you my stupid prototype.
Oh yes, please.
But that's here, you see.
Oh, okay.
So if you click, cinema mode.
Gotcha. Cinema mode.
And now you're enjoying a movie.
Yeah, I think I got.
To go back.
I got something.
To go back. Press escape. Oh yeah, escape.
There you go. And that's all through the web interface. And that's somewhat similar here, right? I can go into play as I was just showing you, double click on the bar, and it's giving me that kind of same.
Oh yeah, same feeling.
Right. And the only difference is in the app, if you were to actually spec this out and deliver it to your developer, it's going to have that same size relationship. Yeah. It's going to not have that border unless you have the window. And again, that's another thing to think about as you're designing on Windows. There are so many different in-between states. It's not just a fixed, screens or set of screens. Even though, Google may have like 6 different targets you're looking for. I have, obviously, on Windows, the ability to control my whole window all the time, right? So I have that same flexibility, which is why we needed to have the effective pixel system as part of that to resolve it. So actually, let's just actually do what I know how many screens we need here.
Oh my God, we need to share with our friends what happened yesterday night.
Oh,
with Nick.
Yes. So
crazy story. So yesterday we have a dinner. This is something that we do every week, so it gives an opportunity for all our guests to meet because they are live 2 hours per day.
Yes.
The rest of the day they work, so they don't have time to stay in the studio and meet. And so we so yesterday, so they start chatting at the dinner, and then you realize that you met Nick like 9 years ago.
9 years ago.
But he had a completely different face.
Yes, beard, his hair was different.
A criminal. He was like a criminal.
A criminal, just different, real different. And what's really fantastic is that 9 years ago we had met. I worked at Blizzard, interviewed him at Blizzard, and we kind of felt like I kind of remember, but we just had a feeling. And he definitely said, "I think I know you."
Okay, so
he was the one who initiated that, and I was like, I kind of think, but I didn't say anything. And he was like, I think I know you. It's like, your name kind of sticks with me. Oh. It's like, then I was like, oh, Blizzard, you worked at Blizzard? I'm like, yeah, I worked at Blizzard. And I was like, how long ago?
So it started.
And then that started a conversation, and then realized, wow, we were on the same team, Battle.net team on Blizzard, at Blizzard, and it was just a serendipitous reunion. So it was.
It was insane.
You can't write that. That's just fantastic.
Insane. We talked a lot about video games yesterday.
Yes, a lot about video games.
So what did you do at Blizzard?
I was a designer,
also?
UI, UX. So worked briefly on the Battle.net team. Worked a little bit also on the .com for the game section for Blizzard.com proper. Like, if you go to Blizzard.com, you look at the actual
like the web experience,
but also a little bit on the Battle.net team. Yeah.
We had once, so I did a live stream, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, with a concept artist he worked on Blizzard games, Mark Brinery, and these guys are so impressive. Like they open Photoshop and they talk to you like this, and just use the tablet, and 1 hour after you have this amazing landscape with perspective, light, and just starting from scratch. Like, okay.
So there's some changes that I'm making to just the relative distance and layout. For phone, I definitely wanted to have...
You're fast.
So you would go from the splash screen, the onward logo itself would push up, giving myself a little more of that vertical distance that I would want to have. Having the inputs be more touch-friendly, so it's on the lower quadrant of the screen. On desktop, that's not really that important or vital for me, so I'm changing kind of the spacing of objects a little bit more than I would. So now I'm going to group these objects again, Control G, and then just move that up. So you can make those small minor adjustments, but the idea is, as I mentioned before, not to really scale. You know, you don't want to actually make things bigger to fill up the screen. Yeah. Let the system do that for you, and you'll see that as you actually work through development. So let's go through the rest of this real quick. Get my, oops. See what happens when you skip a step?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just using my inspect tool essentially to find out the relative locations of things. So I'm going to group this object and see where its position is. 406, fantastic, group that. And actually let me go a little closer so people can see, my apologies. So this is where it's going to get a little interesting. Just ever so slightly.
Yeah, this one.
And then what I'm going to do is, as we get to navigation, is the last piece. I'm going to reveal another component that's really interesting to know. Oops.
Yeah, just saw a prototype, and it reminded me that next week there will be the iPhone X. You know?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So it's next week. And new challenges for
and
UX designers.
Yes, and I'm
because
just
there is this
biding my time to figure out what my next phone is going to be. So,
did you see the sneaks? Like it was trendy on Twitter of how there is a kind of tab at the top. You see, like it's a full screen, but there is something at the top. And it can ruin some app experiences, including Instagram. You're like, it's a big deal.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure like you have designers in all these big app agencies saying, oh crap, we need to think the experience again because there's just this stupid on this new iPhone.
So there's one thing that I wanted to bring up. You'll notice that on mobile, what I wanted to do, considering that this is really about a lightweight, really quick way of connecting to your trip, finding activities that you are already setting up ahead of time, and then finding them. Navigation is not really too critical for me here, but there's going to be things that I need to do, preference or settings, logging out, things like that.
Yeah.
And just, going back to activities and having that anchor of navigation. But in mobile, I decided to make sure that it was all compressed within the hamburger menu. I haven't yet shown and exposed that.
Yes.
So now what I'm going to show is that because I'm on desktop and it's a relatively simple app, I now have the real estate to actually have navigation always exposed. And the other reason is, outside of this real estate itself, the actual screen itself, I'm thinking, well, for people who have, again, similar devices like this, they may be using it in the comfort of their cabin or on the boat. There'll be different types of use cases that people will have. And why not have that navigation, if you have the real estate, open and exposed already? So now I'm going to go back to the toolkit and show you just how quick and plug and play it is.
Cool. So Luis Sands is asking, how do you separate unlink an instance from a symbol? Just right click on the symbol and you can, let me check what is the word. I'm not sure I have a symbol there. Okay, we just make it as a symbol. You right click and you say ungroup symbol, I guess. Yeah, and it's not a symbol anymore. So just say ungroup symbol on your symbol. But yeah, it's very important to master this concept of symbol if you want to save time and collaborate with other designers. And Gabbage is asking to use XD to create and then you just send the prototype to the developers. It's one of the use case. But before just creating and sending to developers, you need to make sure that your experience works and that the users will understand it.
Mm-hmm.
This will be efficient. So that's what exactly Daniel is doing now. He's like, okay, I have more space on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes sense to directly provide an access to the settings, maybe the profile, everything. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you design the experience, you send it to the developers, you show it to users, and they're like, I don't get it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
a lot of validating along the way.
Worst. Because developing costs a lot of money, and updating code costs even more money. Could you copy the entire mobile project into a web version? What do you mean, Glenn? Need more details, please. So what you can do, and this is what Daniel is doing now, and this is one of my favorite feature of XD, is that within the same project, he's designing different screen experiences. So he's designing the mobile version on the left, the desktop experience, maybe he can design the Xbox experience, everything in the same project, and it's so good, you know.
You have to really cross-reference things. You want to make sure you're consistent in the patterns, the spacing. You know, mobile might be 12 pixels, on desktop it might be 24, and you want to basically fill that out. And if you have to jump into different
open projects,
different projects and whatnot, you're not quite getting that thing, which is what, you know, handicapped a lot of different people when they saw responsive designs first take hold a while back, which is, you know, it's hard for me to see everything at one glance. You know, some people like to really have everything just out in the open.
Someone's asking, is there a way to save an object style in the assets panel? No, so you can save symbols, not object styles. You can save character styles. So here you're using, what's the name, Sergey typeface, but he can use a specific style such as ultra thin, for instance, 32 pixels, and save it as a style for all the headers, and then he can modify the character style into impact, like populate all the edits on all the screens. And you can also save in the assets folder global colors, which is also super useful. Yeah, so Glenn, it's a lot of copy pasting. So there is no, I mean, not yet. There is no way to take a screen, resize the screen, and then all the elements will be resized.
Right.
This is something I know the team is working on. Like, we have a concept in the labs. It's very, very hard to build a tool that does that. We used to have a tool actually, and now we have some concept of this in Adobe Muse, but we used to have a tool. It was called Adobe Reflow. It was to design responsive web pages, where you could put on each element of your design anchors and say it has to stick whatever happens, like 20 pixels from the right and 20 pixels from the left. And then if you resize the screen, everything would reflow.
Right. And was that all proportional, or was there kind of other conditions?
And you have some constraints.
Yeah, there
is
you
it
go.
Proportional? Is it, so like fluid design. So for the web, kind of work, but when it comes to all the screen experiences, what Daniel is doing now can be very challenging. So, and if we add it to XD, we want to make sure it's easy to use, efficient, and not confusing. Reflow was confusing, to be honest. It was super, super hard to use it. But yeah, if we can find a feature that can make you, where you can save time, you can be sure we're working on it. The mantra, I would say, like the tagline of mantra of XD is design at the speed of thoughts. So we really want you to have an idea and directly design it. And this is exactly what Daniel did, actually.
Yes.
He didn't sketch on paper.
Nope. Just right
in. Open XD and boom. Okay, I have this. I want to try. Oh, maybe I should display some people. Okay. He goes on stock, he finds some people pictures, drag and drop in circles, and boom, you have it. So, and you zoom out, zoom in, everything in the same project. You don't have multiple apps open. You can prototype directly within XD. This is exactly the DNA of XD. And you are like a senior UX designer, but you are kind of new XD users, so you learn XD very fast, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I played around with it when the early days of Comment, the code name for XD.
Oh, cool.
And it was just really to kind of test it out, but there was Adobe focused on Mac first, right, to kind of really focus on getting one thing correct and understanding all the kind of issues and comments that were coming back feedback-wise. And then came the Windows, right?
Yeah.
And it was just until
1 year ago. It was in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just last week we said 1.0 launch, where we have complete parity now between Mac and PC. And that's one thing I, as a PC user, primarily, like at home, I have a PC. I build my own PCs. My whole ecosystem is Windows, essentially. As a designer, you want to have, you want to feel like you're being reached out to, right? And that's what's really fantastic. That we have that opportunity now to have a great tool. So a couple of things here. What do we do? All right, footprint. I'm gonna open all this up.
So Gabage is asking, is it possible to have a hover effect on XD? So there is no hover event. So today there is just the click event. But we know that it makes sense, especially for the web. So it's definitely discussed on adobe.xd.uservoice.com, which is the place where you can discuss all the features with us. Because again, it has been built with the community. And we have some new entries. That's good. We're still live for 28 minutes with Daniel.
All right. So I'm gonna start cracking as fast as I can here. Let's see here. There's a little issue here. It's still bringing everything. I just want the footprint to be resolved.
Oh, there's a grip.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll do manually.
Oh.
Normally, you can select Shift everything and
footprint.
Yeah, I just want to take that particular shape and I did it before. Okay, let's do it the other way. Okay.
It's tough.
I just did
because
it.
You don't see that. Yeah, it's tough.
Okay, maybe we could do it this way. I'm just going to do it manually. Sometimes, it happens.
Let us know in the chat who has on their Behance profile a project that deals with UX design. So if you do, just say, okay, I have a project on my Behance profile, because I am just one click away. That's cool with the Behance chat, is that I can click on the avatar and I will jump to their Behance profile. So maybe we can check your work.
Yeah, I would be really interested to see.
Oh, Mikey. I do. Yeah, we can check that, for instance, like Mikey just shared something. So I guess this is the blue mock-up. Oh no, there is here also Oliver. So yeah, some UX design.
All right.
Good job. And there is also the blue mock-up. I like this view, I like this type of mock-up, which never happens in real life.
Right, never happens in real life.
It's just cool, Yeah, nice.
As long as you have, good establishing shots that show the real...
And made with XD.
And made with XD.
So don't forget, if you publish a Behance project, actually I will show you something. It can help you in the future. If you check the Adobe Live page here, so we try to recap what happened during the live streams. So we will feature your work and stuff. And you can embed here directly an XD project on Behance. So this is an interactive prototype that has been made live by our friends from Telepathy in San Diego. And you see you can directly embed the prototype. So how does it work? When you share, you can either have the link or embed, okay? And you copy paste this code on Behance and then it will appear in your project. And the second trick, make sure that you reference in the tools that you have been using XD. Then you will be automatically featured in the Adobe XD gallery. Okay, so if people are looking for what has been created by with XD, then you will be directly on this page. Okay, just to give you more visibility. So don't forget to reference the tools on Behance.
Okay, so we got navigation here for that particular element. And it's important to note that the drawer itself. Oops. There we go. drawer itself overlays rather than pushes content. So it just basically lies on top of it. So as you kind of close your window or resize the window on your desktop, or if you change the window on your Surface, it's just going to sit on top of the content rather than push the content to the right. So just a little small thing to note. And now we're going to basically do all the fun stuff here. I don't want anything but that. Actually, one thing I do want to change is
in about 15 minutes, we will review more prototypes, and I will ask you, Daniel, to pick your favorite one. Okay?
Sounds good.
It's cool because you really show also the value of the UI kit
Yes.
during your work, because it directly looks like a Windows app.
Yes.
You're like, there is no brainer. Like, you look at this, you're like, okay, I know what this is.
There we go. And just doing a little bit of house cleaning here.
Hector, you want to know how to get a junior web developer job? Like, if you have someone like starting in the industry, you want to get a job, like, do you have any piece of advice? Like,
getting started in the industry, trying to find a job. There's different ways you can approach that. One, if you want to build a portfolio, I would recommend you looking at developing kind of a use case and a mock-up for an existing service or app, adding something unique to that. So actually, I even did that just as a fun thing when I interviewed at Microsoft, for instance. I noticed that they didn't have a Pinterest app within the ecosystem in the store. So I decided to give myself a time challenge, blocked it within 3 days, and said, okay, I'm going to go through the process from ideation all the way to kind of visual design, and kind of present what my thinking around that was. And now you can basically do that. And again, with XD, you can prototype that entire experience out and have, kind of proof of concepts, or, the idea is you're doing spec work just to show that you have the capabilities, so people can actually, not only look at what you have in terms of skills, but see it in kind of a physical manifestation, and then have that as part of your portfolio that's ongoing. You can build a community around that, and that's gonna go a long way. A lot of that is just also fleshing out your own skills and your perspective as a designer. So that's one thing I would recommend for instance.
Cool. So it's still a repeat grid?
Still repeat grid.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go.
And you're actually not at home, you're actually at activities, so I should change that.
Ooh.
Let's change the navigation to be compliant to what we're doing. And of course those icons would be real icons that speak to it.
And not pyramids.
And not exactly, not pyramids. And now this should be relatively straightforward. And we're not going to have that many because we want to keep some of it. but I do want to change a couple of things. 24, and I want to increase the height.
Oh.
Give it a little more spacing. I can't find it. There we go. 48.
Mm-hmm. So you try to always keep
A
like
little
you have
more
a
breathing.
number
in my head.
also?
So divisible of either 4,
Okay.
and you know, making sure that your padding is sound. Here you can see that my actual margins are way different than my mobile counterparts. There are multiple of 2s as well. And again, it's just a habit that you get into because you want to make sure that there's a sound reason for spacing along your grid. So this is going to be separate by 24. So you can see how this screen, and for, you know, again, you can see the way I'm building this out right now is just left to right, but if I just really, really quickly wanted to see these things side by side, well, I can do that without, you know, really breaking a sweat. Boom. And just evaluate the differences between them. Like, okay, I can see what I'm doing here, and there's a little bit of difference, but I can see the relationship really well.
Awesome. Is this sorcery? Yeah.
Is this sorcery?
It is. The repeat grid, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely black magic.
I saw one of the design live sessions where someone used it as wrapping paper. You just create one little image, and then you just rotate it. And
it was Jessica Moon, I think.
Yeah, that was really creative. Really creative.
So funny. And yesterday, yeah, we use it for the calendar. We use it also for the rating system with the stars, you know, where you create 1 star and you can just rate. You know?
There you go. whatever works.
Yeah. And they added something in XD actually that I noticed in a recent version, where you, like, if you copy paste something on your screen, there will be like a kind of tooltip, you know, or a banner at the bottom saying,
yes,
by the way, I see that you are repeating elements. Do you know that there is a repeat grid? So it invites you to use it. I found it super smart. It's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, if you start to like notice a behavior, like key them in. It's not always something you're going to know or read, you know, online or FAQ. Those are the kind of moments, those teaching moments, you know, those micro moments that are really important.
Hi Taser, Ibrahim, thanks for joining. Yes, this is Adobe XD on Windows.
On Windows.
Designing a Windows app.
For UWP.
Yeah, UWP on the Surface Pro. Adobe XD is available on both Windows and Mac platforms. And after Daniel, we will welcome Madis and Ralph, and they are working today on adding colors to their wireframe.
That's fantastic.
And they will also collaborate in real time. So someone will be, I think, drawing icons in Photoshop using brushes, sync them in the Creative Cloud libraries, so you can use it directly in XD. It will be an interesting workflow to watch.
Workflow.
Yeah.
So now you can see where I have parity. I'm starting to build that parity between everything. Here. Actually, maybe even copy and pasting is not required, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways. What I'm going to do here, because I just realized that this grid is not a repeat grid anymore, so doing the same thing I did is not going to work out, but not a matter. I'm just going to basically take the elements that I want, copy them, and place them right in place. So that one goes shufflebuck. Everything's snapping, so I don't have to think about anything.
That's good.
So where's that? Right here.
Yep.
This kid. Over here.
What would we do without snapping?
I don't
these
know.
days?
Without snapping, that'd be very sad. Make sure that snaps. There you go.
And XD was designed with XD. Yeah, it's true. It's true, Alexander.
This one was. Does it say that it was over here? Did you say XD was designed with XD?
Yeah.
The Inception, right?
Yeah. So they started designing in Photoshop, to be fair. And then they switched to XD. Very soon in the process, actually, because it also helped them identifying what was missing. Yeah.
And I'm going to show that, actually that's one good point, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to show just like where the placement of this is, but also in the previous mobile screen I basically said you have to select something before you can continue, but didn't show the disabled state for that yet. So I want to show just what that would look like, or just what to do in that particular case. Oh, I see there's a bounding box for that is way higher than it should be. There you go. That should snap to this edge. Now you can continue, but this should be disabled. And I want the disabled color to be transparent. Let's say 50. And continue itself to be gray.
Jesus David, can you add animations to when you upload? You can add transitions between the screens, which are animated, and you can decide which transition you want and the speed of the transition.
Right. So now I want to do. Excuse me.
So today, how do you hand off to a developer? So it could be sharing with the developer the XD project. It's very easy to export design assets. You can select any screen or any element on an artboard, and you do Control E or Command E, and it will export to a PNG, SVG, whatever you need. And then the developer can check the dimensions and everything. Okay, let's see if we have more entries. Yeah, we have some more. Okay, it's time to review some prototypes created by our friends. So the theme of the day is entertainment. So we start with this one. It's called Play.
Play.
Okay, choose your sport. Tennis. No.
All right.
Ah, no. Rock climbing. Okay. Rock climbing. Can go back. I can click here. Home. Okay, there is one screen missing. Where is the last screen? Ah, from Unsplash. So it was in the credit. I missed it. I don't know.
Some interesting photos there. Really kind of communicate, you know, what the topics are.
We have a film rate. Okay, so for film fans, share your opinion on movies and show. Okay, start rating.
Oh, full bleed
nice,
imagery.
Yeah, full bleed. And you can rate. Game of Thrones. 4 stars. Come on. Seriously.
That's very contentious. Very contentious. Maybe the last season, you know.
That was good.
I haven't finished it, so there's taboo on me there.
Ah, okay.
Don't tell me. Don't spoil.
Begin.
It's
And
no
we
hard
have
not to be spoiled.
Watchable already playing with this new iPhone X UI. Okay, still in progress. Let me refresh. Maybe you updated it. No. Okay. Hellos. That's good. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it? Yeah. Just want to make sure I didn't miss one. I think that's it. So, if you have to choose one.
Oh, that's right. We're here. How to choose one?
Play. Film fan. Watchable. The watching timer, which was with the onboarding experience and Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
We had the music app also at the beginning of the show, where I could create something
by various kits.
Yeah, with the machine. And we had the logging experience of Winch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say I'm really partial to apps that are really focused on creation, and I think the music app that had really, you know, the sound machine, it was like a very, you know, unique system there, and the visuals for that I think really work well. The color scheme, it looks like it's really really great for a mobile use case when you're doing something on the go, where you can demystify how complex music creation can be. It looks, sometimes very challenging, but it makes it very simple here. So that would be my recommendation, the music app.
Okay. Congratulations to the author of Music App. You get a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription. You can still participate during the day. We are still live. We'll be live for more than 6 hours today with more guests, and we will still ask you to design and share a prototype. The theme of the day is entertainment.
All right, almost there.
You almost have your desktop experience.
Almost there. What I want to do is going to actually look at the layout a little differently than I have in the past.
And if we didn't feature your prototype during this show, we will do it during the next show. Oh, Sorab saying congratulations. It's like, yay!
So now I want to go back here and make sure that all my alignment's good. So here I'm splitting the panels into column segments rather than having everything be stacked into one vertical column. So it's a very common convention. And if I had to think about how I would effectively use real estate and I had a little more time, you can see this having a bit more in terms of maybe scaling the lists themselves to maybe look at different preferences and whatnot. So at this particular moment, I don't need all this. I'll just keep it the way it is because we're not going to be scrolling in that environment. Oops. What we're going to do?
And Ahmed is asking, could you have the link to the final prototype?
Of course. I hope so, right? You can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll share that online. What I'm going to do is effectively take up more of my space. So make sure my gutter is there. Oh, that's right. So now I want to actually uncouple this and turn off reflow, because if I want to actually take up more of the horizontal space here, it's just basically going to extend all the way. So before I do that, what I really want to do is space things out a little bit more, because now we have more space.
So we had a question. Who was asking this? Oh, Luis was asking, how can I make the default font for every time I start a text box something else than Helvetica? Okay, so let me show you the behavior of Adobe XD. If nothing is selected and you start just typing something, so yeah, this is Helvetica with this gray color. Okay, so let's say you start modifying it and you say, I want to use a Acumin Pro instead, 30 pixels with a blue color. Okay, the next text block I will create will keep the style. So the way it works is that if you want to reproduce a text style, just select it. So let me select this one. I just select it. Now I use the text tool, and this is taking the style from the previous object selected. Now if I select this text tool, I have the new style. Okay, but if I don't select anything nothing is selected, and I use the text tool, back to Helvetica. Okay, so if you want to reproduce a text style, just select the one you want on the UI. Or you can use also the character style. So here you can save character styles in the assets panel, and you click and it will apply the style. Okay, so this is how it works. So if you want to get an access maybe to Daniel's prototype, what we can do is that we will create a Behance project that will recap what has been created this week, and maybe we can put the link there.
Sounds great.
Okay, so make sure to follow the Adobe Live team on Behance. We will publish a project and you will have an access to the interactive prototype and see, you can try it yourself, you can try it on your mobile phone.
Absolutely.
And understand how Daniel implemented all these behaviors. Okay, so make sure to follow Adobe Live team on Behance, and it should appear on your activity feed when we will publish the project.
Alright, let me just get all these names, so we're going to be sharing this out. Okay, selection. If I have 4 minutes, I can do this. Oh, 3. I can do that, 3.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes.
Alright. I have to wire everything up in 3 minutes.
Also, Daniel, what is the best way to follow you? Like if our friends, if they want to interact with you?
Best way to follow me, you can reach me at my website. I think somewhere here, theorytree.com, theorytree.com, and you can reach me there. I have a forum, and I'm on Behance as well, and that's how I do primarily reach me. I'm not really that much into social, which might change. I think that other people are asking me, so I'll rethink that for sure.
Cool.
So this is the last object here.
Yeah, and that was a fast desktop experience. Huh?
Yes.
You did the mobile first strategy.
Mobile first, right? Yeah.
And you can watch the replay. So the replays are all available on the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel, including this one. This one will be available in about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes, yes.
Yeah, you just need to give YouTube 2 to 3 minutes to process the video, and then it will be published. Okay, so maybe you can zoom out and see what has been created. It will be time to say goodbye.
All right, zooming out here and showing the complete path, essentially. And you almost got everything where it needs to be. Let's see, boom. And then
here, so yeah, you just select an element and you say, if I click here, I jump to this screen.
Boom. And then
now, make sure you select your first screen. Preview.
And here you go.
Here we go. This is the desktop experience. Password. Yeah. You select which one? Yeah, sport.
You see your list.
And you see the activity with the people sharing the same activity.
There you go.
Yeah, good job, Daniel.
That was informative, and it was great to have all the questions, and I hope that this gave people a little bit more understanding about UWP, Windows 10, and just overall how we can build the toolkits and what the benefits of XD really are, and helping get people get their ideas out there quickly.
It was awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great, Daniel.
It was great. Thanks
for watching, and make sure to follow Daniel. And we will be back in about 5 minutes with Madison Wolf. So stay tuned on behance.net/live. See you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.